Hello everyone and welcome to this week's video. But this week we're not going to talk about the sketchbook. This week we're going to be talking about my all-time favourite art challenge, Inktober. I started doing Inktober a few years ago when I started on this channel. In fact, I started I think a year before this channel, and it's always been a firm favourite of mine. Each year I've tried something different. I've tried something that I would not normally do. One year I just tried doing ink illustrations with a dip pen, so let's see how I felt with that. One year I tried white on black paper to try the opposite, see how that felt. Last year I did Witchtober instead of the official Inktober prompt list, where I worked with a very limited wash of inks with a very limited palette, using only black and copper. So this year I wanted to take everything I've learned from last few Inktober's, paint only with inks, but this time I will be using full colour. Now previously in the past I have stuck to very limited palettes. This is because this is something more in my comfort zone, and it's something that I feel that I can do daily that isn't going to affect my work from day to day. Now Inktober is a fantastic challenge month, and if you are participating this year, 100% I am very proud of you, and if you're not participating, I am still proud of you. Inktober is a challenging month. It can be quite a busy month for a lot of people, and it falls around the same time with May, where people can be quite busy. For example, this year for Inktober I have 2 conventions coming up, as well as other personal things coming up, and I have to do a lot of work in between all that. But you know, I think to myself, if I try and limit myself to the time frame that I will be using, set yourself a time target of 30 minutes to an hour each day that you are only allowed to spend on this, as well as scale down the illustrations. So instead of doing A6 illustrations, I'll actually be working much smaller this year. I'm going to be challenging myself to work on a smaller target to try out lots of different things. So what will I be doing this year? So this year, as I said, I'll be painting with inks. I'll be using acrylic inks as well as drawing inks. So I'll be using the Winsor & Newton inks, as well as the Daler Rowney and the Liquitex. I'm trying out lots of different techniques because I really want to try this sort of style of painting with inks, and I have done this a few times on this channel, but it is something that I really want to delve further into, especially considering the challenging of doing a limited palette as well. When you limit your palette, or when you are trying out colourful stuff, it can be a very different style that you are going for. So I'm just basically showing off all the equipment I'll be using. I'll be using glass stick pens, Kuretake dip pens. I'll be using this really cool feather dip pen, which is meant for calligraphy, but I thought, hey, I'm going to use this. I'll be also using paint brushes, as well as all the inks that I've shown off, and I'll also be using a CY Brighton watercolour sketchbook. As you can see, it is only a 20-leaf sketchbook, so I have got a little bit of extra watercolour paper, but my whole idea is to try and do small illustrations. As for the prompt list that I will be following, I will be following the official Inktober prompt list. I did ask you guys on Twitter and Instagram which one I should do. Should I do a Witchtober or an Inktober? And you guys gave me this fantastic idea of crossing over Inktober with Witchtober. So I'll be following the official Inktober lists, but I'll be turning them all witchy. So hopefully this should be successful. But the thing I find with these challenges, it's not about success, it's about what you learn from it. Now, not necessarily these monthly challenges are good for everyone. I find that we put a lot of pressure on ourselves as artists to keep up to date with these social trends, whether or not it's on Instagram or Twitter, and try and have this sort of idea that we need to post every single day. Now, unfortunately, with algorithms, that is something that is, it can be quite daunting, especially when you think, okay, I have to post at this time to do this and do this. It's the same with YouTube, it's the same with any social media. It can be quite overwhelming. So if you're thinking, okay, I'm not going to do an illustration every single day, so maybe challenge yourself to do an illustration a week, or maybe challenge yourself to do the illustration for the month. Try and maybe do little small illustrations on a big piece of paper. The whole idea of Inktober is to challenge yourself, and that's something that I find quite personal about these challenge months. I absolutely love doing them. I find them extremely challenging, not to draw daily, but to push myself out of my comfort zone. I'm going to be trying things that I've not tried before. I want to try techniques that I'm learning, try something that I've not done. And like last year for Inktober, I had so much fun trying out this very limited palette and learning from it. So this year, I really want to learn. So what I'll be doing for this video, as you can see, I've drawn out my prompt list and I'm really happy with it. I love the muddy colours that you get when mixing certain colours together with the inks. So what I will be doing is I'm doing a test piece. Now this is an idea that I have had in my sketchbook and I really wanted to expand on it. And since it doesn't really fit with any of the other themes for the Inktober list, I thought it'd just be really fun to try out and show it, like see how this sort of equipment works. I'm also going to be using a little bit of gold foil this time around. I want to get better at using gold foil. I am not very good at using it, and I want to get better and practice so that I can improve those skills. And I think that's what we forget to do with these challenges. These challenges aren't about, well, personally for me, I don't think they're about drawing every day. I think it's about challenging yourself to do something that you would not normally do. Now, necessarily, I am not going to be challenging myself by drawing massive landscape pieces. That is something that's more of a personal project that I am working on it through my sketchbook and through my sketch work. And it's not something I am quite comfortable with doing a landscape every single day. It's something I am improving upon because I want to improve my backgrounds. So what I'll be doing with this instead is pushing my colour boundaries and trying different techniques that I've not done before. So not necessarily is it about challenging yourself to do something that you've always done. It's about doing something that you wouldn't normally do. Now I could just stick to using dip pen with simple ink washers, but I really want to try something different. And the ink wash technique last year was so much fun to do that I thought, okay, what if I paint with these? That could be my challenge for this year, because the thing that can be with painting inks, as you can probably, if you're new to my channel, hello. If you're not new to my channel, you know that I have painted using Ecoline watercolors, which essentially is a liquid watercolor. Instead of having to mix down the paint is already there and you can water it down. It's very vibrant, very beautiful. I will not be using my liquid watercolors for this, since I really want to challenge myself with the ink. The difference between the liquid watercolors and the inks is that the inks are very, very vibrant and they behave very differently from watercolors. You can water it down, that's absolutely fine, but once that color is down, you are going to really struggle to lift it off. Whereas with the liquid watercolors, they are a little bit more forgiving and the colors don't tend to muddy as much. Whereas the thing that I find with painting with inks is that colors can get muddy very, very quickly. So I'm using in this piece in particular, and this is something that I want to use, I was using a very Halloween based palette. I used orange, yellow, green, brown, and I think that's pretty much it. I was trying to mix out different colours to get different techniques. You'll notice I used the greens to cool down certain areas because there's a lot of warmth and a lot of orange in this piece. So it's about learning those techniques on how to dial back. The problem is once you've gone too far with this, you can't build it back. It's very, very difficult. For the line work, I used the acrylic ink instead of the Winsor & Newton ink. And the main reason for this is the acrylic ink, once you put it down, it is a solid colour. You get very little bleeding. Now, because I'll be using ink like watercolours, if you're using, say, a Winsor & Newton ink, because it is classed as a calligraphy ink and not a drawing ink, it isn't waterproof, and this is the case with a lot of these inks. I have a liquid Indian ink by Winsor & Newton, which is non-waterproof, and I have the Court Noir drawing ink, which is waterproof. So acrylic ink is sort of like the fantastic in-between of this. I'm trying to do different techniques with the dip pen that I have not done before, as well as push certain boundaries with colour. So Inktober, should you do it? If you do not have time, you shouldn't have to do it. Do not feel the pressure of having to do an art challenge. A challenge is how you set it. It is your target to do what you want. If you don't have time to do Inktober every single day, that is absolutely fine. If you do not have time to do Inktober at all, that is absolutely fine. One of the things I really need to do is I need to improve on my digital art. So I should really do a digital drawing challenge. And that is something that I want to work upon in my own personal time. I don't necessarily have the time to be drawing a digital drawing every single day, since it takes me a lot longer than traditional now. I'm trying to get better at certain things so that I can turn around and go, hey, I have done this, I'm proud of this, what have I learnt from this? Because even if you don't necessarily produce the greatest piece of art, you learn every single time you draw, and that is something that's extremely important. And I think that's something that we do forget often. It is not something that we really rely on. It is something that we kind of take advantage of. You forget, no matter how bad you think a drawing is, you've learned something from doing that. And I think that's super important, because we put so much pressure on ourselves and it's not that I think that you should be aiming to improve every time you draw. And not necessarily every drawing you do is going to be an improvement. There is going to be some drawings that you take and you take a step back and you look at it and go, what the heck was I thinking? I can see exactly where my mistakes are, and you learn from your mistakes. And I think that's what's really important. Instead of getting yourself down about those mistakes, learn from them and cherish them. So that's what I want to do. And if some of these drawings end up great, fantastic. If I hate every single one, that's absolutely fine. I learnt from that journey and I got on with it. I think my least favourite Inktober I ever did was when I did the white on black paper. And this was just because I couldn't get it to behave the way I wanted, and I got very frustrated with it. But overall, there's some really nice illustrations in there, and I'm really happy with that. So this is the final piece, and as you can see, I used the gold leaf to add a little boost to the illustration, and I certainly will be using this in other illustrations. The only problem is it takes 2 hours in between like putting the glue on and actually putting the foil on, and it's so time consuming. But I hope you guys are ready for Inktober. If you're participating this year, let me know in the comment section down below. What prompt list are you using this year? I hope you guys are excited for this challenge month. Don't worry, not every single video will be about Inktober, but I hope you have a wonderful day. And as always, folks, stay creative.